Good morning. Coming to you live from the National Farm and Machinery Show, trying to do the best with what we have with lights and camera. Now, big move in outside markets. CPI came out hot. That's right, Brother Joe, fasten seatbelts. Let me repeat for the people in the back of the room. It's CPI number out today. It came in hot. Throws a total wrench in everything the Fed's trying to do, the administration's trying to do, all the BS you've been hearing on the media about we're going to cut 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. Not happening. 10-year right now, 4.25. Inflation actually went up. Somehow they're going to try to sugarcoat it and say, oh, no, it was just this and it was one bolt went up, but really this didn't. That's not what's happening. Inflation's hot. It rocked the bond market. It's rocked the stock market. Looking over I'm at a hotel, I have Bloomberg on. Dow Jones down 525. Interest rates exploded. The good news, but wait, we have more. Corn up 4. That's not something we've been able to say lately. Wheat up. So outside markets getting house wrecked here. Gold down 25, things like that. Connor B, you ready to rock the show, my friend?
Let's do it. You came in hot. How's Louisville?
Well, I'm on Wi-Fi. I'm in a hotel. I got ring lights all over my glasses. I'm a hot mess. But I'm excited to be down here. I'm excited to see how the attitude of the farmer is. I just got a text from RFD. I know what I'm talking about on today's show. It's got the cow guy. We're going to talk about farm income. That could be really good. I'll be on at 1:20. Of course, I'll be on RFD TV at 11:45 also. I'm super interested to see the attitude of the farmer. You walk around the farm show, as you know, when you go, you're from a farm family. There's some high ticket items here, and with interest rates going up, it's not going to be quite the same. I think we have a couple charts and graphs, but we could talk about anything you want. Of course, if you're out there in the interweb, ask us a question. Shoot us a question here on the thing, and let's get into the data, Connor. What do we have?
Before we break down CPI numbers, first thing we got, Tommy, Bitcoin hit 50,000, pulling back slightly today, but I think is that a 12-month high on Bitcoin, 50,000?
Yeah, it's a big one, and I apologize if y'all can hear me okay, that's fine. You're coming in and out, but I hear you, Connor. I see you. Sometimes your head moves a little slow, like I hear you, then I see your head. Hey, but
I don't think that's the camera. That's just me.
That's just you. Bitcoin hit 50,000, and there's all these new ETFs that have come out and everything else. I do have some friends who own a couple, and they're pretty excited about it. We mostly deal with farmers, ranchers, crop consultants, seed salesmen. We're very ag related, and the biggest asset ag folks own is the land. Obviously, then around there would be like bins and equipment. What else could you own? I mean, you get the land, the bins, the equipment. That pretty much takes care of it. Semis, trucks, right? Yeah, land's the big one. So we could talk about Bitcoin. It's fun, but I don't know that's affecting our crowd. Just gives us something to talk about.
I like looking at the Bitcoin all-time high was 62,000. I just like keeping an eye on it, right? If we're seeing that Bitcoin into that record-breaking territory, I think we need to pay attention to it, even in the farm community. But yeah, we're not. That's not our clientele, is it, Tommy?
No, but we are a financial show that loves agriculture, and if we just talked about corn, wheat, and beans every day, I just can't imagine that we'd have enough to talk about. And the truth is, the financial aspect of what's happening right now in agriculture is equally as big as the price drop of corn. And so the real conundrum here, the real tricky part, is not only did the price of the commodities drop, but your cost of money is literally 3 times higher than it was. So the biggest takeaway from the show today, if you thought operating's coming down, interest rates are coming down, maybe they will, and I could see why this administration later will want to do that. But if we come into the election cycle, which we're in the election cycle, but as we come in the last 3 months of the presidential election, and inflation's going back up, not down, that's going to be an embarrassment to the Fed, to the administration, and people vote their pocketbook, and there's some concerns out there. So Dow Jones actually having a bad day, but I have to say, it sounds like, oh my God, the Dow Jones is down 500. That's what it was down when it crashed many years ago. But when the Dow Jones went down 500 and crashed, it was at 2,500 and it closed in 1987. It started at 2,500 that day and closed at 2,000. It's at it's at 38,000. So to
Right.
say Dow's down 500, let's put it in a different way. The Dow Jones is
Yeah.
down 1.5%. No big deal. Corn's up 1%, equally as big. What do we have from South America or anything else, Connor?
You want to go into South America or you want to talk CPI numbers?
Let's talk
We can do
CPI.
South. Let's jump right into it. Yeah. CPI month on month came in at 0.3%, slightly above forecast of the 2%. And then year on year came in at 3.1% above the consensus of 2.9%. So different, right? We were 2 months ago, we were talking about the probability of a rate cut in March. I would say that's completely off the table, right? CPI is rising. Fed rate cuts, if they're going to happen, they're going to happen later, right, Tommy?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking down at my phone and gold's down 30. The bond market, again, interest rates have popped. Dow Jones down 550 currently, NASDAQ 300. We pretty much got through earnings season, and you can kind of, markets can fib a little bit. I still can't believe, Connor, can't believe coming into Christmas week, the 10-year hit 3.80. It didn't seem right. 10-year 3.80, stock market on the highs. You watch all these financial shows and they say the economy's not in good shape. But then you go drive down the street and it takes you 3 times to get through a light when you leave the Target parking lot. Like, the consumer's still out there spending. I don't know if they'll continue to do that. I look at as inflation as a big tax on people, and what we learned today is that tax is not going away. And it's speaking of taxes in the government. Did you see they worked all night last night to give away more of your hard-earned tax dollars? Did you see that?
Mm-mm. What was
Oh,
it?
yeah, well, it's the usual suspects, right? Ukraine, Israel, and
Oh,
Taiwan, 95,
yeah.
$98 billion. Congrats, everyone. I mean, we write checks like drunken sailors in this country, and I don't know where the money comes from. Actually, I do know where the money comes from. We have treasury auctions. And last week, we had a 3-year, a 10-year, 30-year, and we're just printing paper like you've never seen. Again, we are spending, the United States government is spending more on interest on our debt than our national security. So we're spending about 1.1, 1.2 trillion with a T. You have millions, billions, and trillions. We're at 1.2 trillion in interest. America has the largest credit card in the world, and it's running. What else do we have, my friend?
CPI color, and then we can talk South America and looking at that. But the increases within that CPI, shelter was the big increase, right? That really isn't surprising with what we've seen, housing prices and that. But that was a 6% increase from last year, up 0.6% month on month. Energy was down, right? Gas prices a little bit cheaper, food up slightly. And so the big one was that shelter insurance was the big CPI increase that I saw.
It'd be interesting to see what happens next month, right?
Yeah.
If for the conspiracy their theory people can, I can't say it, so it can't exist, but will they do it? This is a nice little breakdown of
Yeah.
Fed
Walk
Watch.
us through
Talk
it.
about this.
Yeah.
You walk
So,
us through it.
yes, sir. So, looking at this is just the meeting probabilities and where they have it and where they're going to be for the Fed runs rate. So, as you can see, as of the March, we were hoping that we could see a rate cut in March. Now they've already got a 93% probability they are not going to cut for March, even going out to May and June. We're at 62% chance we're not going to cut it into May. So we're getting into the summer months before we're really looking at the Fed even considering dropping the Fed rate. And a lot, that's 4 or 5 months. A lot can happen in that time frame, Tommy.
Yep. Hey, we're gonna look at South America, but you and Cesar did a breakdown yesterday. Tell us what you guys talked about on premium content South America there.
Yeah. Head of research, Cesar Cruz. Fantastic. He wanted to look at number one, the story that's brewing is CONAB numbers came out Thursday morning, and then we had the WASD out there. The discrepancy from what the USDA and CONAB are getting for corn production, soybean production as well, but mainly that corn production number. It's very interesting to look at and how we're diverging so much. And then looking forward, right, they're planting that safrinha crop. What can we expect there? And looking at that. So, he's great at doing that. And so leading into that, looking at that second corn crop, that safrinha corn crop, which I learned, Tommy, safrinha
Mm-hmm.
means little crop in Brazilian. It's not so little anymore. It accounts for about 70% of corn production in Brazil, and it's their main exportable crop. So it's going to be a big factor going forward. It's why we talk about it all the time. But looking at planting progress in Brazil, they are at 31% this week. Last year, they were at 20%. So they have had the right weather conditions. They're playing it very fast. Mato Grosso is their big, that's the Midwest of Brazil. That's where it's going to be the main safrinha corn crop. That's where it's being planted. They're almost 50% planted. So they are rocking and rolling. And then same thing, looking at the soybean harvest progress, they're all planted, harvesting soybeans. Again, they're making great progress in Mato Grosso. Overall, 20% versus last year, 15%. And so one thing that popped up in my head, Tommy, is I remember 3-4 months ago when beans were $14. What were we talking about? We were talking about they couldn't get the crop planted. It was so dry. And it's amazing how fast the conditions change. Now we're looking at an accelerated bean harvest, and corn planting is well underway.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I'll be interested when I walk around the farm and machinery show. Do I meet people from South America, right? And we farm in production agriculture is it's all over the world. It's wild. I mean, there's this. We're selfish. Like, you're in the center of Illinois. You think you guys invented agriculture. Maybe you did, but it's not like that anymore. And when you look at corn production and bean production, wheat production, I promise you all, and you'll hear us say it all summer, market your grain from the standpoint you're going to have a good crop here in America. If you don't, there's a lot of things you can do to pivot very, very quickly, or there's a lot of things you could do now in case you don't have a good crop. But with a good crop and where we are, by chance, would you happen to know off your head where crop insurance levels are here for D's corn and no beans?
You're right. We did that yesterday. You're going to be right around that 473, 474, right? Just looking at market D's corn right now is 470. We pulled back, and then beans, I believe, was 1175. I think.
That
Don't hold
sounds
me
right.
to that.
Right.
Tell me it was in the 1170s though.
Tell me if I'm thinking of it right. You grow a crop, you have $1 of downside to cover for the government. There's a lot of money still to cover. You may not like 475 corn, but if you're buying 80% crop insurance and grow average or above average, the government won't have you covered. And so if we do go down to
Easily
350,
$1 down.
yeah, my friend Ed Dugan texted me. He said, "Who was that guy on RFD who said corn could go to 285, 290?" I don't know what he was talking about, but someone went on TV and said corn could go to 285. So I'm sure they'll find out who it was and beat them up, right? All right, Farmer Bread. The Fed wants you to think interest rates are going to be higher for longer, but in reality, that is unsustainable for the U.S. and their trillions and trillions of debt. Interest rates will come down. That is not a question. That is a statement. We like your statement, Farmer Brett. Time will tell, right? But you talk about betting a lot of money on the Super Bowl. The ultimate bet is people betting on these interest rates, and it's affecting the United States government. It's affecting people who can earn interest or people who are paying interest. Well, Connor, I thought we had nothing to talk about. We went long. What the heck?
Amazing how that happens, isn't it?
Let me look at the markets real quick before we go. I do want to give people a little
and
then go ahead.
And looking to Brett's comment, I'm going to pop it back up. Right. I think you've talked about it a lot, Tommy. You're great at breaking down the Fed and interest rates and all that. But, the Fed didn't want to get too far ahead of themselves, because you want to really look silly is if you cut rates and then inflation pops back up. So they want that target inflation rate at 2%. CPI came in at 3.1%. They want to see that down, and I think they'll start cutting rates, especially